Hey everybody, welcome to the Two Token Studio. My name is Jelle Pol, co-founder, business director at Dusk Network, and also working as an advisor for the Two Tokens initiative. I'm joined here today by Mark van Rijmenam, fellow team captain on the Two Utility Token use case. And we'll be taking some of your time today to walk you through the Two Tokens Foundation, the wider initiative, and of course what we did with our use case, the utility token implementation. We're representing a nice set of partners, so we're not the only ones working on the initiative. We're joined by Rabobank, Watson Law, CMS, Make It, a few others, but we have the pleasure to speak on their behalf. The floor is yours, Mark.
Thank you very much, Jelle. It's great to be part of this Two Token studio and the Two Token team. I think we've done an amazing job in the past months to create a Two Token, which we're going to talk about today. Just a bit of more information about what the Two Token Foundation is. The Two Token has been set up a couple of months ago to sort of create a roadmap for the Netherlands around tokenization. Tokenization comes with a lot of challenges. It comes with a lot of things that it's new for a lot of companies, new for a lot of governments, and we try to help the Netherlands, the Dutch government, the Dutch financial institutions with tokenization, understanding the possibilities and the opportunities, but also the challenges that arise around tokenization. So the main deliverable that we have done in the past couple of months is we are working on a roadmap towards tokenization, so that we all know what we can expect from tokenization, and that we also know how to approach tokenization, because I think that's one of the bigger challenges around tokenization. At the moment, we have done a couple of use cases, which you can watch in the Two Token Studio, where we talk all about the different use cases that we have developed. In this webinar, we're going to talk to you about the launch of the Two, and we're going to talk to you about some of the learnings that we've had in the past couple of months. Of course, we did not do this alone. Apart from Jelle and myself, I think we have a very strong team of professionals who are helping us with developing the Two. So we have a legal background, financial background, technical background, and together with this group of 8 people, we have managed to come up with the use case, which we are going to discuss during this webinar. So before we dive in more into the launch of the Two, I'd like to explain a bit more about the opportunities that we see around tokenization. So the Two Tokens project started somewhere in September, October last year, and we started with doing 3 roundtable sessions. So what we did is we invited about 100 people from industry, from government, from universities to join us and to help us in understanding what tokenization really means and what can we expect from tokenization. And I think they were fantastic sessions. You were there as well. What did you think of it?
Well, so I had the pleasure to host a table at each of these sessions. So the setup was roughly 10 tables, 10 people each, right? And we dove into opportunities, challenges, what's keeping people from starting to tokenize parts of their business. And we really got a good kind of eagle-eye view on the state of the sector, basically, in the Netherlands. We've worked in tokenization for a long time with the people in the initiative. But before you start to kind of prescribe solutions, it was very good to get like a temperature check on where the industry's at in a wider sense.
And what was sort of your main takeaway from the roundtable sessions?
Well, what I found really interesting is that first I expected that the knowledge level would be lower, actually, and I found that the knowledge level is actually quite high, but then the gap with the actual practical experience that people had was then all the larger, I would say. So I would talk to people at my table who really had a pretty good understanding of what is blockchain, what is tokenization, but yet they, for example, never did a transaction on the wallet or never played with Bitcoin or Ethereum. It's like, okay, so you have all this abstract knowledge, but you've never actually touched it. So that was a very interesting finding for me.
Oh, that's good to hear. I think we got some really good results from the roundtables. We looked at what kind of opportunities we see in terms of tokenization in the Netherlands, and obviously, tokenization or tokens are basically going to be I would say almost the main resource in society in the next 5 to 10 years. It's going to have such an impact on organizations, on society, and it's really important for organizations to understand what tokens mean for them. So on the one hand, we looked at the financial markets, how financial markets can benefit from tokenization. We looked at, at the international position of the Netherlands, because in the end, tokens are I would almost say borderless. So you can, if as a country you don't do anything with it, if you as a country you don't understand how you can benefit from tokenization, I think you have a problem. And you really have to pay close attention to it. So we also dove into the governance, the new opportunities that you can have as from compliance or developing ecosystems, and I think the whole combination of tokens within your organization and within your society shows you that if we can tokenize assets, whether they are digital assets or whether they are real assets, such as a car or art or whatsoever, I think the possibilities become almost endless, what you can do with it. But obviously, it also offers some challenges, and I think one of the main challenges at the moment that we saw is that the lack of understanding, I think we see around tokenization. Maybe you can share a bit about that.
Yeah, there's quite a pragmatic gap, so to say, right?
Yeah.
So people, like I was mentioning earlier, they have quite a lot of knowledge, but they simply don't know where to get started. So it's like, so we tried this initiative, but it failed because we needed so many partners and it became too convoluted, or we weren't clear in our exact legal position, or we're trying to get traction in our company for a business model that hasn't been proven yet, but without experimenting, how will we ever prove it, right? So you kind of get this chicken and egg dilemma, and you see it surfacing in so many parts of industry, right? Like everybody wants to be second, basically, fast follower, and wants to avoid the pain of really trailblazing it. And that's a very, very typical kind of commercial stance, which you can't really fault anyone for, but it's all the more important then for initiatives like this to arise, who are comfortable or who where going first and making the mistakes of being first is actually a sign of success, because that's our goal, right? And we don't have the face to lose, so to say.
Well, what I thought was what I really appreciated from the outcome is that almost everyone said that what we need is sandboxes, sandbox, and that's basically what we've been doing here. We have created 3 use cases in a very almost a sandbox environment, although they will be live and then you will be able to purchase the tokens that we will discuss later. But it's still a very safe environment, and I think that's a great thing of the 2 Tokens project, that we have been able to do so. But apart from the understanding and the sandbox, there's also a technical challenge, I think, with the tokenization. You, of course, from Dusk, you know everything about all the technicalities. What kind of technical challenge do you see?
Well, we see a lot of the technical challenges. I see them kind of in 2 areas. So the first one is that nobody knows what the kind of surviving dominant platforms are going to be, right? So at Dusk, we want to do this for the financial sector. And we see companies like Ethereum, they want to be like the world computer, right? A general smart contract platform. And we have various kind of main chains that are doing all kinds of cool stuff on the protocol level. But a lot of people, they're a little bit hesitant to jump into an ecosystem because they still see it as unproven, right? Arguably, our most successful example is Ethereum, at least in the smart contract space, and they've been around for like roughly 6 years now. So that's nothing, right, in the macroeconomic sense.
And we're really at the start of it.
Completely at the start. So we see a lot of companies that are hesitant, also because there's no support desk for Ethereum, right? There's no
it would be nice.
Centralized. So obviously there's people that are trying to fill this role, but in the traditional sense, it's not necessarily a vendor that sells you something, at least not in the permissionless, decentralized piece of blockchain. So that's one. That's the whole interoperability narrative that keeps coming back. But we can talk about it all we want, but first we need to get more working products, right? We need to really run into the pain, I think, of interoperating, and then there will be a huge boost to actually solve it, because now we're just talking years in advance, I think, and whilst it is completely correct, I don't think it's necessarily fruitful. And then what we also really see is that a lot of businesses do not know their own requirements. So they talk about, we want to blockchain, or we want to enter the tokenization space, or we see these abstract benefits, but we don't really know what we're actually looking for technically, or what our actual requirements are. And then it becomes very tricky to also build for that, right? So there's a gap there as well, and this is, for example, why we really went for the financial markets, because we can take requirements from financial directives such as MiFID II or SRD2, and we can say, okay, we need to comply to this because this is what these businesses already understand and live and breathe, and then we can really say, okay, this is purpose built for you. Because if we need to source requirements from all these different players, then you get like 10 different interpretations of financial law, basically, and you'll never get anything built.
No. Well, that's what I also see in my work, what I do when I help organizations around these topics, because everyone wants to do something with it, but nobody really understands what it entails if you want to really get started with it. And that's what I think it was so fantastic what we did with the Two Tokens project, and especially the Two Token project. It's a bit confusing, I must say, but it's that we took like the whole legal aspect, we took the technical aspect, we took the financial aspect, the marketing aspect, and we threw it in all together. And I think that really helped us developing this Two Token. But I think more importantly, we also looked at what the industry already provides. There are some frameworks around in the market available that we've used, and I think that those really helped us in creating the Two Token.
Correct. So we've seen there's a few frameworks in the market, right? Like everybody's trying to move towards this common language, because how can we start cracking some of these puzzles if we don't even gonna speak the same language, right? So, and we have some partners that are in the wider Two Tokens initiative, the ITSA, for example, Two Token or the token taxonomy framework, which has now kind of been absorbed into the Interwork Alliance, which is also partnering with Two Tokens, and we're developing our own roadmap, which is kind of more of a wider, also kind of regulatory sanity check. Should we do this flavor of tokenization in the Netherlands, or is it best suited to do elsewhere, right? So we're like, okay, let's now create a use case. So we're going to develop and launch our own utility token for the foundation, and let's test it also according to some of these existing frameworks, right? So it gives you a place to start. They're not going to be exhaustive sources of information, right? But it gives you a little bit of handholds to start.
And we can share that information with the wider community.
Exactly, because there's other people using this that now instantly understand what you are or where you sit in the wider scope of things, right? Which makes your job of translating these novelties a lot easier. So we saw that in the token taxonomy framework, you follow kind of a decision tree, or it's a bit of a flow chart, and now you have a reasonable understanding. Oh, we're kind of an SKU. We're basically a web shop product that we've tokenized, right? But it's quite clear there's some loyalty aspect, but we're roughly in this corner, right? People understand. And then we saw in our own framework that we'll dive into a little bit later. Okay, no, this is fine to do in the Netherlands. There's actually very light legislations around this. And then the ITSA framework, which was also shown on screen, it's more about, can you summarize some of the dimensions that you've built your use case across, right? So what do the economics look like? What does the tech look like? What does the legal look like? And that is probably a very good kind of umbrella to talk to, because it's the typical three big axes, right? That you can discuss. So starting with the utility token itself. So what did we actually build? A utility token for Two Tokens, also dubbed Two, hence all the
confusing,
verbal confusion. But what we effectively did is tokenizing web store credit. So it's a voucher almost that you can use, tokenize, to buy products in the Two Tokens Foundation store. And these are all, we say products, but this is all the things that we are basically doing for the ecosystem, right? So it could be events that are being organized, it can be masterclasses or kind of educational materials that are being offered, various products. And what we did is that we built in a 10% discount, basically just an incentive, because we want this behavior, right? So you can buy something for 100 euros in the web store, or it's 90 tokens. That's basically how it works. A token equals
a good incentive. We're Dutch, we always like discounts, so come on.
Exactly, and that's basically the big reason for doing it, right? Like the business case itself is relatively ideologic. We want to promote people handling tokens, and this comes back to the gap we discussed earlier. There's a lot of knowledge, but less experience. So maybe if we give you a bit of an incentive, monetary, the best kind of incentive, right? Then people will go through the hassle of trying to, let's say, buy a ticket to an event using tokens. And there's some fringe benefits. For example, the foundation will get its funding for these events a bit earlier. There's some loyalty buy-in. People that want to get involved but aren't exactly sure yet how they want to get involved can already kind of commit their loyalty to the wider foundation. So there's all kinds of kind of nice benefits around it. But the main goal for us to achieve is, hey, we want to eat our own dog food, see if the frameworks that we're building actually work when we pull a use case through it, right? And get people familiar with the down and dirty look, feel, taste of handling tokens.
And did it work? Did our frameworks work?
Yeah, they worked pretty well, actually. So the regulatory framework worked well. We ended up in the kind of right bracket, if you will. And this was proven, or at least, how do you say, backed up by our legal counsel in the use case. So that worked very well. The token taxonomy framework is way lighter, so it just gives you a bit of an idea of what you are, more of a thing to talk to, so that's good.
Yeah.
And the ITSA we use really operationally to actually go through the questions asked there and fill them in. So on the screen now we see the ITSA summary framework, economic dimensions, so what is the use case, what kind of industries does it apply to, what tech is used, and what's the legal classification. And we really took that as a starting point to kind of structure the discussion, if you will, and took it from there. So maybe it's best if we dive into the economic dimensions and get people up to speed there.
No, absolutely. I think the idea of the token is really to, as you said, to get people familiar with in a very safe environment around how to use and basically play around with this token. Therefore, we said it has several dimensions, and from an economic perspective, it's a token that's worth €1. So 1 token is worth €1. It can be it's sort of a voucher, I would say, that you can use and spend in the 2 tokens web shop. It is VAT liable because in the end it is just a voucher that you can use to spend on a masterclass or a summit ticket where normally you would pay VAT as well. So we are aligned and compliant with the Dutch law. It's available basically for any industry. So anyone who is interested within any industry that wants to know about tokenization can join here. That's one of the questions that they ask in the framework is for which industry does this apply? Well, in this case, it applies to anyone. If you look at the token metrics, it sort of that explains what are the characteristics of the token. And in this case, 1 token is worth €1, so that's very equal, very easy to understand. The token doesn't increase or decrease in value, so you could basically say it's a stable coin, sort of. It's a fixed supply, so there will only be a limited amount of tokens available, and more importantly, there's an expiration date. We added an expiration date because it is an experiment. It's a first token that we're launching within the 2 Tokens project, and it has a very clear goal. And it is helping people understand what tokens are, having people to play a bit with tokens, and help the 2 Tokens project to continue to exist and to with that get some funding to deliver the masterclasses, the webinars, and whatsoever to help you, the community, understand tokenization more better. So I think what can you purchase on with the 2 token? Very important. This has already been mentioned between the discussion we had, but I think it's a masterclass registration. So we are working on doing several masterclasses. So we have a masterclass on tokenization, and later this year we have a masterclass on more the financial aspects or decentralized finance, etc. We have a membership coming up. So we have the 2 Tokens Foundation, which gives companies and corporates the possibility to become a member of the 2 Tokens Foundation, and that basically offers them to have community insights, to participate in the community projects. Eventually, I think 2 Tokens, we want to start doing more of these kind of experiments with the community, for the community, by the community, etc., where we then share the knowledge that we gained from these experiments with the community. As a corporate, you have a lot of benefits to participate in the 2 Tokens, because not only can you join in these experiments, and you as a company can learn from it, but you also get first access to the knowledge derived from these experiments. I think that's extremely valuable, especially if you know that tokenization is the future. It's not going away anymore, and every business will have to do something with tokenization. So you better understand what this means and how you can benefit as a company from it. Of course, we also have the 2 Tokens Summit, which is scheduled for later this year. We had to reschedule due to the whole COVID-19, but later this year, probably towards the end of the year, we'll have a fantastic conference where we discuss all the learnings that we have done in the past year. We'll have some great keynotes from around the world sharing their insights, and it's really a summit that you cannot miss, I would say. And together with the masterclasses, the summit, these webinars that we organize, you get access to token knowledge, and I think that's extremely valuable today. So.
Yeah, and there's a lot of care being taken to make sure that there's enough product offerings to satisfy the people that want to support the foundation by purchasing this token.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's for the conference, we're aiming at a 400-seat conference, so we're going quite big.
Yeah.
And even then, in all the kind of small print, right, we're gonna take care of people that even if they end up, with surplus token amounts or something goes off, that the foundation will always do everything in their capacity, right, to make sure that people that are there to support us don't get stranded. So I think that's a great explanation. We'll dive a little bit into the technology aspect. So here we obviously wanted to do something that was also technologically exciting, or at least compliant. So the deployment that we selected was a smart contract on top of Dusk Network. So that's the blockchain that we're developing, headquartered in Amsterdam. And we've really built Dusk for compliance and privacy and aspects like this. And normally we're there kind of for the security sector, right? We typically tokenize financial instruments and these kind of things. But here, because it's such a confined experiment, so to say, and we saw some other kind of synergies in the technology, also because it expires, we thought, okay, this could be a very interesting thing to launch.
And it's a real local Dutch initiative.
Exactly, it's very local, it's very kind of homegrown, and we really kind of wanted to do it together, so it made a lot of sense there. And also, we haven't really seen, from a technological point of view, we build a lot of our smart contracts in zero knowledge, which is quite novel, and we haven't really seen utility tokens launch yet from a zero knowledge smart contract. So this was a very kind of unique, appealing thing to us as a tech company to say, hey, this might actually be the first flavor of zero knowledge utility token, which of course is quite a sexy reason to get involved, and it just makes things a lot more fun, right? So, and then the privacy ties into GDPR, like people and partners want to be able to commit without their transactions being public. We want some of these transactions to be final right away, so that the people at the foundation know this ticket is actually sold and not like it ended up in a fork or in an orphan block or whatever. Oh, I don't have access to the conference now.
That would be a bit of a shame.
But very kind of annoying practicalities that can occur. And what we did is that we basically mirrored the web store experience on chain. So there's several like end wallets that represent the different products. So when people buy a ticket, they're effectively transferring that amount into a product wallet, and then we can link it back to this person. And it's quite a kind of cool contained flow. So that was very much an honor, obviously, to be able to take that one on. And we have a few caveats in place. So we fully expect people to potentially mess up a few things on the first go.
Well, that's sort of the objective as well. Not really objective,
well.
But it allows for people to experiment with it and to play around.
It comes back to what you were saying earlier about the sandboxes, that there's at least room for error. It's not like our first transactions where if you accidentally send something to the wrong address or whatever, that it's gone forever, kind of the steep learning curve of DLT, so to say. But here, if people mess up, then we've deployed the smart contract with a configuration that allows us to restore a few things.
It's quite risk-free, I would almost say, for people to start. If people want to experiment with tokens, this is the moment to do.
Exactly, and we don't recommend wasting our time by purposefully messing up for days in a row. But if it happens, then we're there to help support. We also went through a few of kind of the legal dimensions. So how is this classified? Are we not accidentally emitting a security or e-money or all these other things that are relevant and need to be taken into account? Obviously, we have Watson Law and CMS in the team, so they were great help on the classification and on the tax side. And then we were basically able to see a few things, right? First, it's a utility token. That's kind of the legal classification, but it's kind of a classification where you end up by crossing other things off the list. That's kind of how it works in practice. Look at, okay, is this a security token? That's the big one, right? So does this give like a right to profit, or does this give a dividends or a certain coupon payment, or am I buying this with the goal of gaining economically, right? Well, in this case, it's not the case. It'll always be euro, and also securities always need to be transferable from person to person, and these are characteristics that our implementation is lacking, meaning, okay, now this is safe.
You cannot transfer, if I purchase the 2 token, I cannot transfer them to you.
Exactly. So for this implementation, we've built a very closed economy. So it's just issuer to buyer, and buyer spending it again at the issuer, basically the 2 tokens foundation, because we want to avoid these complications on the experiment,
Very
right? It's a personal right, so a voucher is a personal right, basically, right? It's just it belongs to you.
It's a really cool voucher then.
It's a very cool voucher, exactly. It's a very cool voucher, and it's also not e-money. E-money is typically classified as something that is, it is fungible. It is issued typically by a single party, but then that's where it starts to diverge. So typically, it's accepted by multiple parties. So there might be one issuer, but you can spend it in a lot of different places. Well, that's not the case with us. And e-money should also be transferable person to person. So you can buy e-money credit or whatever and transfer it to me, right? And these last two don't fly in our implementation, so it's not e-money. And then we start to look at, okay, the Dutch Central Bank, the European AML, anti-money laundering directives. Does it apply there? Do we need to register with a regulator, for example? And then we see that a lot of the regulatory pressures, so to say, or restrictions that are approaching tie into custodial services. That's a very big one, and exchange services, so crypto to fiat. Now, we're neither of these. We don't hold anyone's tokens in custody, and we don't provide the continuous fiat on or off ramp, so to say. So we don't have the mandatory registration process that we need to go through.
So people, if they buy the two token, then they have to hold their tokens themselves, the keys themselves, and be responsible for that as well.
Yeah, it's self-custody basically, just like if you buy a gift voucher at an e-commerce store, right? You get the voucher. If you lose it, or if you know, it's your problem. And then the nice thing here is that it's not even fully your problem because we can restore it for you. Exactly, we can fix it. But this is nice because this means that from an account creation or customer due diligence point of view, we don't need to do a lot of the things that are mandated when you do need to register. So KYC processes, storing documents for people that purchase the tokens. We can. It is sufficient now to rely on the KYC AML processes that are in place, simply because people pay with euros.
And therefore you know what's going on.
You know a counterparty, you know a bank account. There's enough KYC present in the euro system that we don't need to build new stuff on top. And that's a big time saver for us, obviously, and also something that really makes this implementation viable, and why we were able to do it in such a short time, because this is a big one, right? Storing GDPR compliant information, KYC processes, it's a huge time sink.
So you mentioned the time. How long did it take to get this sorted?
Well, so we worked on it from its inception to now, probably for a few months.
That's really fast.
But typically, we only came together about a day a week, and then only for about an hour at a time, I'd say. So we formed a team. We had a pretty good idea of what we wanted to do, and we've also used at Dusk, for example, token finance in the past for our own financing needs. We did an 8 million seed round in 2018, and we have a lot of other players at the table who have been behind the curtain on a few of these, so to say. So that's really helpful. So you know, okay, these are the boxes that we need to check. Let's start checking them, right? And then there's a few design questions that pop up, but we were able to tackle them quite quickly. And probably all in all, if we'd gone full time on it, I think we'd have been able to crack it in a few days or maybe a week, something like that.
Which I think is quite remarkable. If
it's nice.
If you can get a token launch from scratch within a couple of days or like weeks, if you don't do it full time, I think that really shows you also the potential of tokenization, and that it doesn't have to be a multi-million-dollar or whatever attempt that takes you a year or two, but if you can do it compliant with the law in a reasonably short time frame.
Yeah, exactly. If you're not hell bent on starting with something that covers 100% of your business, for example, and then you can really start small and quite clean. And obviously the expertise helps. But that's also why we're here. We want to share some of the things. We're capturing them in a roadmap, in a white paper, in a summary, so people can say, sure, it's easy for you guys to say you've done it. But we also started from scratch at some point, and now we want to consolidate this expertise into something that people can start to replicate, right?
Yeah, and all the documentation is of course available for everyone to download onto tokens. So we really want to share our knowledge with everyone.
Correct. So we discussed some of the learning, some of the replication. tokens.org is all going to be up there. It's either already is or it will be. So that's a very big part of why we are here. Where are we now? What have we done so far, and what's our next steps?
Yeah, well, so we are about to start with the token launch, where we have some Genesis buyers who will purchase the first tokens. On the 16th of June, during the Dutch Blockchain Coalition Summit, I think, we have another webinar, another discussion where we discuss the two token project. Of course, all the information that we've discussed now, all the white papers, all the documents that we've used, everything is or will be available on twotokens.org. We are excited to see this coming to life, and I think it's fantastic to see how much we pulled off in such a short time frame. And also all the information and the help from the community. Also that they also are interested in purchasing the tokens. You know, also companies who are generally sort of scared of anything tokenization have committed to us that they are open to purchasing the tokens. I think that's a fantastic achievement that we have.
No, indeed, we see now as the working group, right? We've done our implementation, so to say, and we're kind of passing the baton back to the foundation and the community. Now the sale needs to go live. People need to start buying these tokens. It's kind of their time to step up. Time for us to consolidate some of our learnings and report out, which is this is also part of that process. And then once the sale is kind of successful, so to say, we're reconvening the working group to guide the token generation event, help with things like distribution, and really bring stuff to a good close. And then it's on to the next phase of the wider two tokens project.
So I would always say, you know, everyone purchase the two token. You know, it's it's good for the community. It's good for you because you get 10% discount when you purchase the products in the two tokens web shop. But I think more importantly, you get an experience on how you can benefit from tokenization. How tokenization works. You can, in a very safe environment, mind you can lose your token, so which you can't do anywhere else. You can lose your token and still keep your money, so to say. It's a great opportunity to start experimenting with tokens and to learn from it, and to also contribute to tokens project, which is there to build, the tokenization roadmap for the Netherlands and help companies and individuals understand what tokenization means for us.
Yep. Thank you so much, Mark. The last 30 minutes or so, we wanted to give you a bit of insight into what we did, what the Two Tokens Foundation is and stands for, the use cases that we're working on, and how we're really trying to bring tokenization to life. Hopefully this provided a little bit of insight into what we have done and what we will be doing. And other than that, like Mark said, keep an eye out for us at twotokens.org, and we'll be in touch. So thank you, Mark. My name is Jelle Pol, and see you guys around.